Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. Today, we've assembled a panel of really, at least I think, really interesting people who excel in their market. And the interesting thing about these people is that during the pandemic and the slowdown that has followed, they found a way to flourish using their skills, natural talents, and just hard work. So, when I first met Will Sears, I'm just going to do the introductions today as opposed to the way we do. I first met Will Sears at Fig and Olive, where he was a manager. I met Bob Katz during a cruise a couple weeks ago across a dinner table. And Peter, I met years and years ago at an ARC, a fundraiser for a local charity. So listen, I've just given some interesting tidbits about you guys, but tell us more about who you are. Will.
Sure, I'll keep it short and sweet. I am the vice president of hotels for C12 in Sardis. I oversee the Lauren Hotel Group. I'm in Austin right now. We're getting ready to open up our Austin property. I'm also one of the founding partners of Field Trip in New York with JJ Johnson. We've got 3 locations and soon to be 3 more. So that's me in a nutshell.
Bob.
Hey, I'm Bob Cates. I'm the president and owner of my grandma's Coffee Cakes of New England. Basically, I owned very involved with the environment. When I was 21 years old, I got elected in Newton, Massachusetts as the youngest alderman ever, and still has the record. And we were big on the environment back then. And so we were the first governing agency to block smoking in elevators, the first in the world, and to block smoking in public buildings. And I was big on that one. That was my little baby. But the bottom line is it led me to being involved with the environment. So I started a small company that was selling environmentally friendly ice melt stuff that wouldn't erode the sidewalks. You remember what the sidewalks and stairs used to look like, and things like that. And what happened is I'd go out to the New England Patriots and large accounts. I'd bring this guy a coffee cake from this guy who was making these great coffee cakes. And they would call me back. I'd leave a price list. And they say, "Can you come in tomorrow morning?" And Coca-Cola bottling plant, can you come in tomorrow morning? I went to the Plaza Hotel in New York City, and they loved the cake. The French pastry chef said, "We make everything on the premises except for your little cake." So we did little cake. So we did really well at the Plaza, and I knew they wouldn't buy it. So I said, "Can you just give me your opinion on this? I'm thinking of buying the company." The next day, I got a call from him. He leaves a message at 7 a.m. He says, "Monsieur Gates, your cake was magnifique." And I'm thinking, that's very nice. The purchasing agent will be calling you, but please remember, we still make everything on the premises except for your little cake. So they started buying my cake.
I want to save some of your gems for during the body of the
event. You guys gotta look up. You see mentioned.
Yeah, I'm gonna have trouble between Peter and Bob, I think here.
I'll sit back like this. No
Peter.
problem. No, my chin's not my best feature.
Okay.
But bottom line is, I've grown this company, and when the pandemic started, I bought Netflix options because people are going to be home watching Netflix. So I'd call myself an opportunist, and anything bad happens, the first thing I say is, "Can we make something good? Is there some way we can separate ourselves from the pack?" Because when bad things might be happening to you, that probably happening to everybody else. And you can find a way to make everybody else join you in making things a little better. So when the pandemic started, I made a ton on Netflix, ton.
Thanks.
But that's not my, Thank you. Our company we'll talk about a little.
Yes. Yeah. Peter.
Good morning.
Good morning, Peter. Tell us a little bit about you.
Short and sweet. I started as a dishwasher 46 years ago. I love our business. And I love when our business turns into hospitality. So we are New York Hospitality Group. I run, and I'm the founder. I took a bar that was around for a while. We have a 90-year-old restaurant, a semi-organic cafe that goes into hospitals, a barbecue catering company, and an off-premise and on-premise catering division called Cape Berry Events. So we have our own little world in Westchester County, New York.
Thank you. Fred.
Good morning. I'm Fred Klashman. I'm the editor and publisher of Total Food Service. And for the last 35 years, after a career in radio and television advertising, I've had the opportunity to observe the changes and the ebbs and flows in this industry. And I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say in terms of our business. Obviously, we went from marketing ovens and stoves to selling gloves and plastic and things that were keeping people open. And it was a fascinating 2 years watching technology, as many people had to come to the determination, am I in the hospitality business or am I in the food production business? And so we're sort of still there today as we look at where we're going. And I'm looking forward to hearing what the panel has to say today.
Okay, thank you. And I'm Larry Sashin. I am the founder and senior partner of L. Sashin and Associates, a consulting firm, and I have developed the virtual breakfast session by bringing Peter, Will, Bob, and people like them online to inform you of what's going on. So, like I said earlier in the conversation, I met Will in one of the restaurants he was managing at Fig and Olive. And you noticed during his introduction, the restaurant business came at the very end. Will, tell the people what you recognized early on in this pandemic and how you pivoted to keep success running through your veins.
Sure. So when we entered the pandemic, I was overseeing Estiatorio Milos, which is it's a couple $100 million restaurant group. During that time, my wife was an executive for Hyatt Hotels, and we reevaluated where we were living, and ultimately decided to make a move to Savannah, Georgia. And I got to Savannah, and I was bored within, I don't know, an hour. And at that time, I realized that I needed to be doing other things to keep myself busy and to find new friends and new colleagues and new business associates. So I started doing consulting, not obviously to the level as many of you esteemed colleagues and panelists that are on here, but I had the opportunity to open about 6 restaurants during the pandemic, and then that kind of steered into the direction of opening a few hotels. So I opened 3 hotels during the pandemic. And then one of those organizations that we had opened a hotel with were like, well, we need you to join us full time. So that's kind of how I continued to branch from restaurants to hotel and lifestyle. But I think to keep it short, something that Milos did and that we put in during the pandemic, I know Peter and I have talked about on panels before, is really, you have to look at your business economically. And we looked at our business economically to find every opportunity in order to continue generating profit and paying back loans and paying back shareholders who all kind of renewed and refound their confidence and faith within the business model. And that proved incredibly successful for us at the time.
Now, how were your skills transferred from restaurants to hotels? Was there a learning curve?
Not so much. I think that, sales and marketing within hotels is probably the most different part than restaurants. I mean, front office in hotels operates typically off of an Opera system, which is just an offshoot of Micro. So if you can use Micro successfully and manage OpenTable successfully, then you can use Opera successfully. It's still asset management, just the asset and parcel is worth 35 million as opposed to 3.5 million. And then it's hospitality, customer service, and looking at the bottom line. And I think the most successful hotel groups, if you're looking at Auberge or Four Seasons or Aman or any of those luxury groups that are out there, they found a lot of success during the pandemic by really focusing on the guest experience and guest loyalty. And then when the pandemic ended, everybody and their brother wanted to start traveling again. And it started domestically, and now it's expanded to kind of local, international, and people are starting to travel overseas again. So there's a lot of growth within the market that we're seeing. We've got a beautiful property in Bermuda, 40 keys and another 28 residences that, we're over 100% occupancy for the past 3.5 months because people want to travel and they want to get back to their normal day-to-day life.
Okay, thank you. So Bob, you seem to have worked this backwards. You went into politics first and then moved to business. It's usually businessmen who decide they could run a government better than the people who run governments. How was that transition for you from government to business?
First of all, I was still in college when I got elected, so it was a good thing to do, great thing to do. And I still have connections that you wouldn't believe from former attorney generals that were all higher than me, or were aldermen that were older than me that became a state auditor. So I had a lot of connections. And when I bought this company from this guy, and the reason I bought my grandma's is it was a one-man operation, and he couldn't give me enough cakes for my customers. So he said, if you think you can do better than me, buy me out. And those 3 words are the best words I ever heard in my life, because buy me out was what made this company into a multi-million-dollar, over 10 million in sales last year, 13 million probably this year. Pandemic success is what you want to call, I guess. We put the thing together based on the fact that people are going to want quality food no matter what happens. And regarding the pandemic, we had, I don't know if any of you heard of Barstool Sports, but a guy named Dave Portnoy, he raved about our cake during one of his sessions, and we got 300 or 400 orders. And just we thrived during the pandemic because people want quality products. They want to be able to feel they're in touch with the outside world. So the only way they could is either through Amazon or mail order or something that could, keep them in touch with the outside world, or something they could send to somebody to keep in touch with them. So it worked really well for us. The pandemic, we were at over 30% increase over any month from the history of the company. We just had 2021 was our best year ever. 2020 had been, because of the pandemic, our best year ever. So now we have all those, a base of new customers that we never had before who receive cakes. We sent them out a little, what you would call it, put it on the refrigerator, magnet. And it reminds anybody who bought it, received a cake but never bought one. So now they're in our list. We send them a discount nice little magnet, my grandma's logo on it, refrigerator magnet. Now they remember, oh yeah, that cake was great, I gotta order one. Because if you had a cake and you don't order it somehow, something's wrong with you. I mean, okay. There's nothing like it.
Hold it right there. We're into the networking now. And that is a big factor in your business and also in Peter Herrero's. And I'd like to bring Peter into the conversation. You are not huge on advertising. You are big on networking in your region. I think you do it through charity work, through outreach to local businesses. Can you enlighten people on that?
Sure. Especially in these hard times. We're in the hospitality industry. So it is the connection. Everybody says it's the connection, but like-minded people, like-minded values, we decided, I'm going to say 20 years ago, to donate 2% of our bottom line to charities. Now, with that said, and what's great about it is we're the chair of multiple tastings and fundraisers. So I do donate to the organization, but we also get marketing out of it. So it's a win-win situation. The more business I get, the more we give back to the charity. And we give, I love the 3 T's and or the 3 W's: time, talent, or treasury, or work, wisdom, or wealth. So for us, Larry, and you're a perfect example, the more we give, I met you at a Westchester ARC event. So for us, marketing is intricate to being part of the community. And I will tell you, part of that marketing sometimes is doing a consulting job for a local, don't laugh, but a local convent, a local women's club. All these local organizations, you'd be surprised. That's where it helped us start the inside track of a retreat center. Believe it or not, we had 33 nuns for 6 years that we did breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The great thing is, on a side note, when Sister so-and-so touches you on the shoulder and says, I hear your mother's sick, we'll be praying for her. I don't think I've ever had a client that would said that to me, and they actually were that day at Mass. We're local, we're boots on the ground. It's the old guerrilla marketing. So we use our non-for-profit, our talent, our time, and some treasury really to have deep roots And I will tell you, I'm amazed every single year or every other year, we get a great opportunity, but we're invited in, yes, because of our expertise, but because we've proved our value to the community. And all things being equal, the great Bob Heist taught me, all things being equal, people want to do business with people they know and trust. All things not being equal, people want to do business with people they know and trust. I hope that helped.
Yes, yes. Tell the people how that interesting way you got your foot in the door at White Plains Hospital.
To the other panel's point, they're involved in the community. They talk. We were at a board meeting. I was on the local business council of Westchester, who does a great job getting people together. But one of my clients, Regeneron, the vice president, was there. I know they were doing a $500 million construction job because I did the groundbreaking. Another client of mine was there, the president of White Plains Hospital in Montefiore. I know they were doing a $300 million construction job 7 years ago because I did their groundbreaking. So I asked them very politely, would you like to, because remember, it's a hospital and it's a chemical company. It's above my pay grade, Larry, but I asked, would you like to meet this other person? I introduced them. We talked about a couple things. I walked away and let them be. But they both realized the level of hospitality that I represent in my company. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from the president of the hospital. They'd like my opinion on hospitality in a new building that they're building. I'm not an architect or a designer. Hospitality. They actually said, we just want your expertise on hospitality. I was hired as an advisor. Within months, I turned into a consultant. When I gave them the plan, how to greet people, how to location, the color, their tagline is exceptional healthcare every day. Our cafe is everyday healthy cafe. It's so entwined. It was fantastic. And it's turned into a multi-million-dollar contract.
Thank you.
So it is by being part of the community. We are about solutions through hospitality. That's all I do, what we do. Sorry.
Thanks. Don't be sorry. Don't ever be sorry. Fred, I met Fred. I know Fred the longest in the group. I met Fred sometime in the early 90s. And from day one, I'd see Fred greet people. Hi, I'm Fred Klashman. How can I help you? Can you tell people about how that has worked for you?
I think it's always a case of when you're in a spot like we're in, where we're covering an industry, and you sort of sometimes have that 30,000 foot view above. I think sometimes you try to help people put pieces together, and you try to, if you deal with a customer's need first, as Bob has done, as Will has done, et cetera, then I think you're always going to find the return for yourself at some point, maybe not at that moment, but like Peter just said, you'll get a call all of a sudden. What do you think about this? And it turns into something, et cetera. So I think it's all a function of how do you listen to, and how do you, in our case, you're reporting on a marketplace that changes so quickly and so dramatically, et cetera. How do you help people? For instance, yesterday I had a scenario in which a manufacturer of chemicals, his largest customer was sold to another customer of mine. The one product is a branded product. The other product is a non-branded private label product. So now there's a challenge of how to put those two pieces together, et cetera. And so it's an ongoing flow as business changes, as technology changes, as e-commerce changes. How can we help people get to where they're trying to go?
So if we're going to concentrate on a takeaway here, a point that anyone can use in their business that you guys have used successfully, what would that be for you, Will?
I mean, it's this thing that we've heard Peter and Bob and Fred and everybody talk about, which is generosity, and hospitality within the business. I mean, Larry, you told me a story yesterday. I fell in love with Bob 2 seconds after you told me about him. You said you met a gentleman on a cruise ship. He told you about this amazing business that he's got, and before he even stepped foot out of Europe, you had a coffee cake at your door. I mean, that's generosity. That's hospitality. You know, Peter's story about a percentage of his revenues going to support the community. That's hospitality. You know, during the pandemic, we raised about $750,000 and provided meals to battered women's shelters and families in need during the pandemic. That's all turned itself around. It's like that movie Pay It Forward from, I mean, sorry about the lead actor in the movie, but it's like that movie. It's, you take good care of people, you provide hospitality, you take care of each other, and it pays itself back.
Thank you, Bob. I did tell Will the story about the coffee cakes, and lo and behold, we've been buying the coffee cake ever since he sent me the free one. So it is, not, I don't know if everybody does that, but it just seemed natural that if there was something good, let's buy it. And we sought it out, we found it, we bought it. How is that, give before you get worked for you, Bob?
I do a lot of charity auctions, especially for ball players. When I grew up, my father had 5 jobs. He wanted to get us in a good school system. And in Massachusetts, a lot of eastern states, the higher the taxes, the higher the homes, the better the school system. And so I went to the Newton school systems and of course got elected office there. But my father was working so darn hard, 5 jobs, that when I got this company started and he had been working Boston, taking the bus to work every day, I said, you know what? I've got to bring him in and be my vice president of finance. And, if it turns out the company he left went bankrupt, new owners, and we lost him 5 years later. But it's important I tell you the plaque that I put out there. These are my words 20 years ago. Edmund R. Katz, he taught us that true wealth is judged by how much you give back, not by how much you accumulate. Nice. And then at the end of that, I wrote, he'll always be known as the wealthiest man we ever knew. And my father had a shoe shine kit. He would wear the same pants every day, just washed them overnight. My father just sacrificed so his kids could have an opportunity. So in going back to how the company started and what we can do, I couldn't go to ball games as a kid. I couldn't afford it. All the other kids in town were wealthy. Their fathers were doctors and lawyers. But you know what I'm doing now? Not only am I going to ball games, but I'm hanging out with the athletes because I'm helping their charities. So I'm doing what I couldn't do when I was younger in a much grander way now than I ever could have. And the athletes appreciate me. Of course, I'm involved in other charities that don't involve athletes, but that's where I spend a lot of my time these days, is helping out those charities. And I love every minute of it. They're fun.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. Outreach. I know Mike and myself and Bob, we speak to the groups we talk to about marketing and sales, and always it's outreach. How do we keep the funnel? How do we keep the lead funnel filled? You don't do it by sitting on your butt and trying to figure it out. Get on the phone, get on the email, reach out to people when you have nothing to say to them. Reach out to people.
They call me.
How are you? I mean, that's what I did to Will. We hadn't spoken in months. I called him. I said, how's it going? Where are you? What are you doing? And why are you doing it? And we started talking, and we were on the phone for 45 minutes. And here he is today. Reach out to people when you don't have your hand out to buy. Because if every time you call, you ask somebody to do something for you, they're going to know that every time you call, you're going to ask them to do something for you. And lo and behold, they won't pick up the phone. Peter, let's talk about that. Your outreach into the community. How do you reach people that are coming to the restaurant, haven't come to the restaurant, that you'd like to see again?
Well, to if I may, to everyone's point, we are the local experts. So I'm talking to our audience that, by the way, you have the inside track. You just don't know it. The CEO or the CFO of a company, but you know them on a personal level. So for us, the reaching out, I'll make you laugh. We just went through, in the middle of the pandemic, it is what it is. We went through $1 million renovation of 3 dining rooms, four kitchens, a parking lot, offices, all in a 14,000 square foot building. Reaching out, do you know how many restaurants cover up the front door? They don't want to see the construction. I left the lights on and left it out. We are communicating. Everything we do, ladies and gentlemen, is communicating our core values. So by leaving the lights on overnight, do you want to laugh? We're in a neighborhood, a wealthy neighborhood. People driving on, slow down, stopped, and look in the window. You know, they see this, they see that going on. It was actually comical. We're getting reviews and we're not doing anything. So it is that reach out. You have the inside track. If you have that mind that Will was talking about, Bob was talking about, and Fred does now in his electronic newsletters, it is we serve the community. We have to remember we are one of the only jobs I know, and I'm not picking on most doctors or lawyers or accountants or anybody. They don't like the garbage that they have to deal with, the people that have to deal with, the jobs they have to do. We love it. We have to be careful. We can love it more than we love our families and we have to go home. But that love, that passion really comes through when you're communicating with your people, and you see it today. So for us, that inside track, we communicate everything on a wholesome basis. We try to spin it a little bit, but we don't get crazy about it, Larry, because people love that hometown, local, genuine, passionate drive.
Thank you. Charles, you have your hand raised. Unmute yourself and ask your question or make your point.
Thank you. When we started today,
Tell everybody who you are, Charles.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm Charles Feldman. I'm a professor of nutrition food studies. I focus on food systems, Montclair State University. I spent many years in the restaurant industry before going into academia. When we first started the conversation, Fred talked about the difference talked about what is hospitality, or are we in a production industry? Many years ago, I've been around a few decades. Hospitality seems to me, at least in the restaurant sense, of service, of personal attention to customers. But in recent conversations that I have with restaurateurs, they're telling me hospitality more is about online, getting food prepared in advance, social media. I'm wondering, Peter and Bob talked about hospitality. I'm wondering if you could tell us, has the word hospitality changed, or the context around what actually is hospitality now to the post-pandemic or pandemic consumer?
Larry, can I kick that off?
Sure.
Yeah, I think Peter actually brought up an awesome example of when he talked about the hospital looking to him for a hospitality experience. I briefly mentioned that I did some consulting when we moved down to Savannah. Honestly, 75% of the consulting that I did was mixed use commercial and multifamily dwellings, and it was great. I mean, your industry giants like Blackstone, like Trimark and Transwestern, I mean, they're all searching to how to maintain rents, how to maintain satisfaction of tenants, whether it's a corporate business tenant or it's a residential tenant renting a building, and what they need to do in order to get there. So I would say, Charles, in response to your question, that it's not that the term hospitality has changed. I think it's people have realized that there is such an insurmountable respect and need for hospitality within other segments that it's given us opportunity to do some really fun and exciting projects. The last thing that I did with John Frazier, who's one of my closest friends to this day, was 1230 Broadway, 1280 Broadway, 1080 Broadway. I don't remember. Sorry, it's been 2 years. But it was in partnership with Blackstone, where We developed hospitality for the office building. We developed a lounge, if you will, which was free to all tenants within the office building, and a full service restaurant on the ground level. And it was like, okay, you're not just doing a restaurant anymore. Now you're talking about expanding that to multiple things within one roof. And I think it's really special because it shows a newfound level of respect for everything that we're all working on.
Okay, so Peter, what are people looking for in hospitality when they came back to your restaurant?
Well, I'm going to agree with Will right now. Hospitality, it's funny. We in our business really own that. It is about the friendly treatment, the friendly reception of guests and strangers to our establishment. But it's been hijacked, and rightfully so. And I'm not making a statement about today's state of mind that so many people are aggressive and ready to correct me on something that's none of their business or get into a fight about it. But it's that hospitality to each client. What does it mean to you, Larry? It means I want a table no one within 10 feet of me. I want to be around people, but I want an open window. They want to be treated. I love the old Cheers song where everybody knows your name and everyone's a friend. Just be polite and nice. We've had customers that have lost family and friends, have been disabled, lost their income. But if you treat them all hospitable and pleasant, it's amazing. Some people, they want to be outside the building with a heater. Some people want to be at the bar standing next to everybody. It really is that patience. I love the expression, an old coach of mine says, stop telling me what you can't do because I don't care. And you're asking for a fight. Tell me what you can do for me. And if you think of that, you're like, you're right. I don't care what you can't do for me. Oh, because all I'm hearing is no, 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 no. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Hospitality is that friendly way of talking to people.
Okay, Bob, you're an expert at that when you speak to people. Everybody is your friend the second you open your mouth, and even if you don't know them at all. How does that work for you? How do you employ that in your daily routine?
The first thing I wanted to Joyce wanted to be next, so that's cool.
Okay.
First thing I'd like to do is define, and this is what we did in our company, define hospitality. And hospitality is a series of phrases. Bringing people together is one of them. Comfort is another. So what words describe hospitality? And we felt that the casinos who are losing all kinds of business need to get better in touch with their customers. And we've flourished in the last 2 years with casinos giving our cakes away to people to let them know, we know you haven't been here, but we love you. And they don't say that, they just send them a cake. And when they open it up and see so the beauty of the whole thing is that how we've looked at hospitality has always been in dealing with mostly casinos and as giveaways. And if ever people want to be together and send a message, it's during the pandemic. And so that's why we feel we've did incredibly well, just a natural fit, as long as we could jump into those opportunities and get involved with them while they existed. It's kind of waning now, thankfully. The pandemic is kind of waning. So, but either way, hospitality will never go away, ever.
Fred, Joyce, did you have anything to say, a question?
Well, I wanted to ask everyone, well, first of all, I don't think everyone knows who I am. I'm a writer and editor for Total Food Service. I work with Fred, and I've known Fred for over 30 years. So I wanted to mention, I've been speaking to a lot of owners and general managers and mixologists who have direct contact with all the patrons that come into their establishments. And they're all telling me how disrespectful people have been, especially during COVID. And now that we're out of COVID, that they're even more disrespectful because we've had the pent up 3 years of, this situation. But I think Fred, isn't it Angie Marr at her new restaurant who is setting up going back to the old ways of, I'm going to give you men have to wear a jacket at dinner so
Right.
that the respect is coming back. So I wanted to ask those of you that have these, establishments, is it a problem for you? And are you going in the direction of the jackets?
Peter,
I like the idea. I don't know if I would visit that restaurant. I'm too tired to put on a jacket. I've gained a couple pounds, so let's be honest. You're not going to see a tie on this shirt for a while. I think we're asking, and I'm going to say this real quick, of all our professionals out there, police through nurses, de-escalation and hospitality. I think we have to take those cues from everyone. We train de-escalation. Again, what can you do for me? I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. I had a 70-year-old woman yelling and screaming at me the other day. We have 5 companies. I happen to be walking through the lobby of our restaurant. Why isn't your staff within 3 feet of my face wearing a mask? So, Joyce, I will agree with you, but I will tell you, ma'am, I understand you're very frustrated. Let's step outside to get some fresh air. Ma'am, first off, may I ask, stand back 6 feet and put your mask on, because I know you're very serious about it, but may I suggest that you start with your mask? And then I just went through, this is the reason why, it's been, and this was February. I can give you a seat outside on the sidewalk underneath a heater. That's what I can do for you today. What do you mean? If you saw a mask, and I'm verifying her concern, within the last 4 months, it's because it was a party. Someone in the party was immune compromised, and they asked us to wear a mask, and we do. But the law was August. We stayed till October. But our clientele has told us that, why are you wearing a mask? What are you hiding? Peter, do you not have your beard? Just to be funny. And those masks made our clientele unhappy. I told this woman, she goes, well, where's my table? I just showed it to you, ma'am. If you want, I can get you 2 heaters. But what I can do for you today, I have a seat for you outside. You could see in her eyes going, oh, sugar. I cannot offer you a seat inside, but I can offer you, of course, we'll take care of you and we'll get you extra coffee. But you're so upset, and you've upset some of my other clients and staff, that I won't be able to take care of you inside, because she asked me the 3rd time. So I have to change because she's not hearing me. I will tell you, 4 customers are waiting inside going, they're like, Peter, what did you do? And I explained to us,
I'll be there.
we have to talk to each other, by the way, in a civil, if we're going to be hospitality, then act it. I love when people say they're disrespectful. Just because you're a jerk doesn't mean I'm not going to be professional. I'm polite and nice. I kill him with kindness. By the way, what I love is, Joyce, I see you're very upset today. I don't think we'll be going to be able to help you out, but I'll be here tomorrow if you'd like to see us. We as managers have to protect our staff. I will tell you, it's amazing. The customers, they look at me, I look at them, and they're like, have you had any good fights today? No, because I don't engage. We've trained our managers very seriously, de-escalation, kill them with kindness. And it's not about you, Joyce, the customer. I'm sorry. When it comes to being a professional, that label and that honor, I bestow on myself by my actions. So I think customers they always come to us to de-stress restaurant, a place of respite. It's exactly in the title that we need to take care of our customers. It's the greatest thing in the world. I see you having a bad day, martini. They look at me and go, that bad? No, it's that good. But do I look that bad? Did you hear it? I heard somebody laughing. You break the ice, and we train our staff to do that. If they're really hungry, you give them a little espresso cup of soup. Looks like you're really hungry. And I know when I get hungry, it's about me right now, I get hangry. So I figured I'd get you something to eat. You want to laugh? The customer, mutual respect, we're good. We put in their food quickly. So I do hear that a lot. My amazement in our business, though, and the crowd this morning will know better than I do. Since when do people tell us how to live our lives or run our companies or our sections or our bar. We're the professionals. They're not.
And just one quick
And
comment.
I think, and one thing I wanted to ask Will in particular and Peter is the difficulty in attracting and keeping staff, does that exacerbate the difficulty and the strain between
It does.
a customer's expectations right now and where we are?
Will?
I think that the pandemic has affected everybody in a different way. And I think that the challenge that we all are having, Peter, are you still having challenges with staffing? Because I am in like every market that you go to.
So everybody is, Will. Everybody.
You know, I think that I think those two things couple with one another. And I think that quote unquote, God, I don't want to ruffle any feathers when I say this, but quote unquote inflation, the biggest conversation that I'm having in my own restaurants, at the hotel, and with other colleagues who call me and want to talk about it is, you know, if a cook's coming in today and looking for 21 bucks an hour, will that number ever be able to go down? And I think the answer is no. And I think there's
Unfortunately, that's the dishwasher number in many cases and not the cook number.
I mean, Fred, I was talking with Jono. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Gray in Savannah, but Jono's a good friend of mine, and he just opened at the Thompson in Austin. You know, and they're paying line cooks between $20 and $28 an hour.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
You know, when Peter and I were kids, I mean, my first cook job in New York City, I made $8.20. You know, it's just not. And I'm not an old guy. I mean, it's just not the same. And where my heart kind of hurts is the level of ethics and work behavior. And if I went home and complained about, you know, washing dishes or bussing tables or prepping food when I was a kid, my parents would have said, well, get ready for real life, get your butt back to work and go back and do it. And nowadays it's like, well, if you don't like it, there's always another job. You can go work at the video store, or you can do something else, you know. And I think that there's a profound difference of ethics as it pertains to the employee that's not commensurate with the wage rate that has been adjusted in order to have enough staff to work at your business. And that's the only discouraging thing. But at the end of the day, we find good people, and one good person typically brings 5 good people, and those 5 good people bring 5 other good people. It's like sorry, I'm rambling here, but it's like the support staff phenomenon, which is the second you get a great runner, the second you get a great busser, or the second you get a great bartender, you can always get 4 or 5 other great people, because if they like what they're doing in the workplace, you take care of them, you let them do their job and support them. They're going to tell all their friends who probably are similar human beings that this is a workplace that does that. And then they bring new people, and it's really good. It doesn't change the fact that they're making $28, but
Will, I agree with you.
Let me break in for a second, Peter. There's an interesting concept that goes on when you talk about hospitality. Okay, everybody that runs or owns a business that comes to your establishment is having the same labor problems that you are. Every single one of them. You always say, I need 2 more people to make it hum. Okay, but when they walk into your place, they don't care what your problems are. They just want to have the service that makes them feel important. Let them answer that first, and then we'll go right to you, Joyce. How do you respond to, you know, problems? I didn't come here to hear your problems. How do you deal with it?
Will?
I just respond. I don't know.
It's a tough one, but it's a reality.
If I may, then
Go ahead.
Sorry, please.
I'll give you a minute, Will.
I gotta ask everybody here, just by a nod of heads, how many of you are sickened by people who continue to throw their cigarette butts on the sidewalk instead of in the trash? To me, you can't even get common decency from some people. When I go to the ocean, I see how much trash is there in 1 week that they pick up. Who would ever go and eat their hamburgers at the beach and then throw the bag on the beach? But there must be millions of people doing it because it's there. So when you come down to common decency, talk about people going back to wearing a jacket, ain't gonna happen. The problem is everything is so politicized now that you can't even get people to just be decent to just say, you know what, you may not need a mask, but you are making a lot more people feel comfortable by doing it. And bring it down to that, and they'll say, I don't care. You know, they'll be nasty about it. There are just a lot of nasty people out there.
Right, but how does that boil down to hospitality? Because it doesn't make it, you can't control what people on the outside are doing. You can only control what your people are doing in the restaurant. How do your people respond?
If I may, oh, go ahead, Bob, sorry.
I was going to tell you sidebar, but this is kind of funny. About 11 or 12 years ago, a woman called. She was from Ipswich, Mass, which is near Salem, and it was very late October, right near Halloween. And she's, yeah, you have so many ingredients in your cake, gonna make people fat. You should be ashamed of yourself. She kept complaining. Her son, the woman was rather elderly, and there was nothing. She said, "You have so many preservatives in there. If they dug up your grandmother, she'd still be there." And I'm like, "Oh my God! Well, you know, let's go after the tobacco industry. Let's talk about something in common." She wouldn't. So finally, at the end, and all my employees who she was abusing over the phone were listening. I had her on speaker. I said, "You know, ma'am, you live in Ipswich, right? What's that have to do with anything?" "Well, you're right near Salem, and the day after tomorrow is Halloween. Why don't you just make everybody happy? Go out and buy a broom and haunt a house." And I hung up on her. Okay? But I mean, this woman was not my customer. There's nothing I could say to this woman. So I had to embolden my employees, say, I'm going to stand up for my employees and give them a little laugh. Because they shouldn't be upset about outsiders. It's about our employees and our reputation. So there are just some people out there that you just can't please.
Right. Peter.
To the point of having staff, it is giving them, they love what they do. They're good people. You got to find the right ones. And I hate to say, ladies and gentlemen, I really don't spend a lot of time on negativity or what I can't do. I go back to what I can do.
Yeah.
You don't quit an industry. You don't quit a place. You quit a manager. You quit a culture. But it is hard to find kids. It's hard to find everybody. But ladies and gentlemen, Will, I'm picking on you because you said this a couple meetings ago. We don't pay a living wage. 50 hours, 55 hours until you make a living wage. It's embarrassing. You know what? There's so many. It's the pandemic. People are scared, but it's legal immigration. Whatever it is, there's a dozen real reasons why we're here. But we're losing people because they're told that, you know, it's the executive, it's the celebrity chef. I have 3 daughters, 27, 30, and 31. I want them to fight for their rights. But what we forget with our children and our workers, and I look at the workers, that was unfair that the customer treated you that way. How did you react? And they look at me and goes, huh? How did you react? Unprofessionally, professionally. Because that tells me, and yourself, even more important, if you're a professional or not. You know what I love? They sit there and look at you and go, huh, it's not about the customer. It's about us. And I will back you up. And we have humor. And we have 4 different ways to, I'm going to say, lubricant or ease a situation. So to your point, Will, it's the line managers or supervisors that are standing behind our staff, but in a professional manner, because I wish I could throw out every annoying customer. I will tell you, most annoying customers, really pain in the necks, have turned into raving fans. But because they say, huh, you know, you dealt with it in a professional, polite manner. I said, you know what? And to, where's Bob? To Bob's point, I love some of our customers make us happy by coming and some by going. And a customer will look at you and say, well, which one am I? Jury's still out. It is fun, but I think the customer got it. All yours.
Okay. That was very good.
Okay.
One last comment or question by Charles, then we'll go into our takeaways. Go ahead, Charles.
Thank you. Maybe this goes into takeaways. I'm wondering, you know, I heard about increased wages and attention to customers. I'm wondering how the panel thinks hospitality changed over the last 70 years, because there's things I'm hearing about attention to customers. You know, 70 years ago, we gave a lot of attention to customers. Has it changed? Is it still the same? Is there something else we should be doing?
Anybody want to take that one?
I think we should be evaluating what the perception is of menu price and what we're charging to our guests. And it's a very, very sensitive discussion topic. But I think that if we look at other industries and other facets, if we look at gasoline, if we look at the cost of a gallon of milk or the cost of a pound of chicken breast, every one of those industries has marginally increased the cost of their products. We know that wage rates have increased marginally, if not doubled, over the past 7 years. And I think that there needs to be a little bit of a better understanding on how some of those costs need to incorporate within menu and the prices which we bill guests within a restaurant. And at some point in time, it needs to be the discussion because, look, I agree with Peter. We need to pay a livable wage to everybody that's working for us. And I'm proud to be part of a company that offers full benefit packages to everybody. However, if wage rates go up 30% and the cost of products go up 20%, and I only raise my prices by 10%, there's a breaking point there. And there's an area where like people like Peter have catering businesses. I have a very strong catering business within our hotels because, as we know, catering businesses supports and assists your profitability on a cost perspective. But the mom and pop standalone restaurant, I think that a very close look at what we're charging the guests and how it's really affecting our bottom line will prevent a lot of restaurant closures over the next 18 to 24 months.
I'm going to have to stop us right here. Charles, thank you for giving me an idea for a future virtual breakfast session. I will call you for that one. So what I'd like to do in the last few minutes before I kill the people outside who are mowing the lawn is that I'd like to go around the room and guys, give a takeaway, something that you want everybody to know. Short, sweet, to the point. Bob.
Well, you picked the wrong guy to do that, but okay. No, we have to have a mission statement, all of us. And the key is, what is our mission statement? You have to decide in life as a good CEO what you do well, what you don't do well. People say, how can you live in Florida 4 months a year and still be the president of the company? I said, that's because I have vice presidents. They can do the job. If you can get people in your company and pay them as well as you have to make your job easier and be able to do the things that you can't do better than you, there you go. So it's not always a case of getting more product or better product. It's also a case of getting better customers. And we don't deal with wholesale shops, wholesale clubs and all that. So we decided our clients are going to pay the price because they will invest in themselves by buying a quality product. So that's my brief version of what I believe has kept us going. We've targeted the market that we belong in and we've stuck to it. And all the other companies that competed with us are now having trouble because their market is all over the place and they're failing. Honestly.
Okay.
Succeeding.
Will.
I think that we started this discussion talking about how we've all kind of used our skills to navigate during the pandemic. And I've heard very passionate responses from Bob and Peter and Joyce and Fred and everyone else on the call. I think my biggest takeaway is we got to continue focusing on taking care of our guests and the employees and have an assuredness that everything's going to come back to the way that it's supposed to be. But in the words of Bob Katz, because I read a great article about Bob, I think that there's nothing wrong with being a little bit conservative and being a little bit careful. And I think that that's an important thing for us to take away.
Thank you. Peter.
I guess it's opened up my mind a little bit and dug my feet in a little deeper to we need to play to our strengths and our clientele, as Bob and Will have said. So it reaffirmed that where I am, I don't need to be all things to all people. And in our world of hospitality, and Bob's a perfect example, he does one thing incredibly well. And it has legs beyond what he thought would have ever happened. And it makes me, my takeaway is sweet, simple. We are working back to basics, but to really control our costs, we're going to have to get back to basics even more. But with that said, our marketing, I may have to take it up a notch and think of it completely different. That's the great thing about recessions and hard times. It brings us back to the gym and makes us do different equipment, different workouts. I mean, football players who do ballerina or yoga do phenomenally well. Who would have thought? Not that I'm a football player, I'm doing yoga, but.
Okay. Fred.
2 words, sell ideas. And I think that everybody on this call that's successful, I think that's what they do. And, I look at what Bob's doing, which is he's eliminated the labor piece. And I look at what Peter's doing, which is he continues to focus on whatever it takes in terms of his definition of hospitality. And somewhere in the middle, as long as you're selling ideas and being creative, you're going to find a solution.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming today and helping us out. Listen, if I learned one thing here, it's a very important one, and you've all contributed to it, is that you can't be everything to everyone. You just can't. You can be, but then you'll excel in nothing. And the people on this call have found a way to find what they do best and present that to the people, and the people come back for that thing that they do best. You never see Chinese food at Sam's of Gedney Way, and there's a reason for it, because that's not what Peter does. And there's no fruit cakes from Grandma. There's only coffee cakes, and Will has used his energies and his skills to go from restaurant to hotel seamlessly. And I'd like to invite you all back in 2 weeks when we're going to be moving to the technical side and talking about cryptocurrency. I think you'll find that very interesting, and how you can employ that and how you could weave it into your register. Because as I just found out today, there are 34 million Americans that either own and use cryptocurrency. Why aren't you accepting it? Doesn't make sense at all. So we're at that time when I say just 2 things. Everybody, stay positive, test negative, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye
everybody.
now.
I'd
Have a
love
great
to-
day, everyone.
If you could send me the emails of the folks that participated, I'd love to send them a coffee cake. So let me know.
I will.
Thanks.